Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show, where I interview educators and entrepreneurs on leveling up. Each episode, I zoom in someone who's dope, and we just sit back and have a conversation on what it means to live your best life. Now, if this is your first time checking out the podcast, this is the Mobile University for Edupreneurs, and I am your host, Dr. Will. Now, today's guest is Sarah Cordiner. She is major, people. She's all up on YouTube. She has a private group on Facebook, releasing all sorts of gem content for you on how you can become an entrepreneur. And she focuses on you developing and delivering courses, education-based products. And I wanted to have her on because as an entrepreneur and you're out there, you're consulting, you're writing blog posts for different ed tech publications, as I do. You're delivering webinars, and you're writing a book. One of the cool things is taking that material and then turning that into a course where not only are you making the impact that we all want to make as educators, but I can tell you from personal experience, having my documentary out there, there's nothing, it's so special when you look up and you go, I just made money and I didn't do anything. It's I hate to say that. Oh, my educated friends, don't get upset with me. But when you can make money, when you wake up, you're like, oh, someone bought this. Someone's in my course, someone purchased my course. That's just, really awesome. So for those who'll be listening on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Simplecast, and iHeartRadio, will you please introduce yourself, Sarah Cordiner?
Hello, thank you for tuning in to this episode. Dr. Will, thank you very much for having me here on the show. It's fantastic to be here. Lovely to present with a fellow edupreneur. My name's Sarah Cordiner, thank you. I have been an edupreneur for well over 13 years now, as you can hear from my accent, originally from the UK. Have been living in a very remote area of Australia for some time now. I've been living in Australia for over 8 years, actually live in one of the most remote towns in Australia and managed to run an international business from here, which just goes to show that now with the internet at our fingertips, anything is possible from anywhere. I've recently just finished a tenure as an executive director and head of campus for a university here in Australia. Saw me as the youngest university director in Australia's history, leading the most remote university campus in the world, which was quite an interesting challenge and a very, very interesting way to transfer what were very edupreneurial and entrepreneurial education skills, having run my own education company for over a decade, into the traditional education system. And that allowed me to really understand the transition of an entrepreneurial education mindset, profitably educating your market, like you say, helping people, transforming people's lives, impacting them in a positive way, but doing so in a way that is profitable, that does bring in a business income. If you're going to be doing anything educational as a career, we do have to be financially focused. I feel now that I have even more to help those who are either teaching in the education system at the moment, educators in their traditional sense, to find ways that they can help even more people by transforming their knowledge, their topic of expertise, their area of specialization into other formats that can help more people across the world. So what is your topic that you teach in the education system? Maybe you're thinking about branching out as having a side hustle or learning how to teach and educate people in other ways. How could you turn that into online courses, as an example? How could you create published books that help more people and earn you an income? How could you turn your topic or what you know into high-end workshops or immersion boot camps or keynote presentations that you get paid for? All of these things are possible when you're an edupreneur.
Awesome. And people, right before she came on, we kind of, she's 13 hours ahead of me, people. So I really thank her for getting up this early in the morning to be with us, to drop her gems. So I'm very interested about, who you are. Like I told you before we started recording, I've been watching your videos on YouTube for a while about designing courses and different topics like that. And then I bought your book, Edupreneurship, and then I'm a member of your Facebook group as well. So you're awesome. And I'm just curious, like, who is Sarah Cordiner and what attracted you to entrepreneurship?
I do think that, well, a lot of people look at me and sort of go, you've got your thing, you know, you work in this sort of space with this special name that's really there for a very small portion of society at the moment that call themselves entrepreneurs. The name's growing actually considerably fast over time. But actually, I say to people that what you do, your thing, your topic, if you're thinking about going out into the space of educating the world in a profitable way, it won't just appear to you one day. I always say to people, you know, there's not this sort of sense of epiphany really where you're sat in the shower or sat on the toilet and you just kind of go, ding, here's my thing, here's what I teach, here's how I help the world. It's very much a very slow evolutionary process. It comes from time. You will not find your thing or what your online course topics are going to be or what your keynote presentations are going to be about or what authority you're going to be known as being out there until you start doing something. You have to start somewhere. And as soon as you start speaking or writing or blogging, things like that, people will start asking you questions and you will start to explore and go down pathways that you wouldn't have thought of going down. And eventually who you really are and what you're really passionate about will present itself bit by bit, step by step, as you're walking along the path. So for me, that's very much how my professional career has developed. I always knew that I wanted to do something that was impactful. I always knew I was never going to be content with sort of just being a cog in the machine, so to speak. So I began educating at quite a young age. We got a job as a training manager in the UK, writing and delivering training for a government contract, and very quickly found that it was an area of passion for me. So I went off to university. I got my degree in education, my postgrad in education, and sort of moved my way through the different systems of education, you know, through government welfare to work, prison education, secondary school, primary school, private, public, and eventually found that for me, the adult education space was what clicked. And I only discovered that because I went and worked in Montessori schools. I went and worked with kids in pre-kindies. I went and worked at universities. I went to college. I did all of these different work experiences to try and find out and discover what it was that really, you know, excited me and turned me on. So again, if you're still not sure where you're at, if you're listening to this, going out and doing some work experience, giving your time away for free is not giving your time away for free for nothing. It's giving your time to yourself. It's investing in you and finding out who you are so that ultimately you can go out and create that massive impact, because the bigger, the more your passion is for something, the more you feel like you fit perfectly into it, like the perfect puzzle piece, the more passion and impact and ultimately income you'll make in that space. So like I say, I've moved through to various roles as I started my business, the wise old age of 19 in the UK. I employed my university lecturer as my first employee because I was still employed at the time. Eventually moved my business out into mainland Europe in Malta. And then eventually ended up over in Australia. And in each of those places, I've also taken on tenured, contracted, employed positions, mostly in education, training, management. Like I say, the most recent one being at the university for 2 years, and also for the National Industry Skills Council as in a management position there as well. And I do believe that when you kind of combine these professional experiences with what you're doing in the entrepreneurial world, they really inform one another, and they bring complementary sets of resources, doors that open for you that will help build both spaces. And ultimately, that's great for your customers, your students, your learners, which is then ultimately great for you because they tell people how fabulous you are.
It's all right. So I'm an instructional technologist for a K through 12 school district, and the audience, the people who listen to my podcast, are educators who are also in K through 12, who are either currently monetizing their talents or are interested in getting in the game. Why would an entrepreneur want to sell courses?
Great question. And I truly believe that within all of us, we have so many skills, so many experiences that we have drawn upon or got through in life. We have knowledge that's tucked away in vaults and archived away in our brains that sometimes we don't give ourselves credit for just how much we have in there. So I truly do believe that every single person out there has something to share with the world that would either inspire somebody, educate somebody, provide somebody with a new skill of some kind. And we can really underestimate how what we have, what we know, what we've been through can completely change somebody's life for the better. So I always say to people, start by looking at what it is that you do every single day. You may not realize that what you do every single day will provide incredible information and help to other people. But also look at the life experiences that you have been through. Perhaps you've got through a significant trauma in your life. Other people are bound to go through a similar trauma too. And if you can show and share the techniques that you use to get through that, you could be helping save somebody's life to get through a similar experience too, if you teach them what you did to get through it and survive through it. Alternatively, there's your successes, your achievements, which to you, by the way, can sometimes be underestimated. Some of the things that you've achieved in your life could be somebody's absolute dream. So how did you achieve that thing? What steps did you take? What things did you learn in order to gain that achievement? And simply sharing those steps with other people is a profitable online course in itself as well. Things that people would happily pay to learn the shortcuts by learning from you what you did retrospectively now that you've been through it. So why would you turn all of these things, whether they're skills, knowledge, areas of expertise, your profession, into online courses? Well, the first thing is, the second that you go online is the second you open up a global marketplace. So for me, when I first moved to Australia, I had a very successful 7-figure education services organization doing curriculum design for mostly for corporates and government. When the global financial crisis actually hit Australia, particularly Western Australia, where a lot of our GDP comes from mining and resources and infrastructure. And so our business got really hit by that. We suddenly lost lots of contracts. Governments shut down all of their contracts with us. I lost $2.7 million worth of government work in one day. And I kind of had to go, well, my business is basically dependent on a local economy. What am I going to do? I have two choices. I shut down or I iterate. So I decided to transform the traditional face-to-face classroom-based teaching and training that we were doing into online courses. I was also doing lots of, as you mentioned before, consulting services, consulting organizations on their training and workforce development that they were doing. So I thought, right, what are the things that I constantly tell them, teach them, advise them? What processes and steps do I take them through? And I wrote all of those down and I filmed them from consulting into online courses. I also looked at what services do I provide. I was helping people develop curriculum. I was helping people write training plans. So I thought, well, I can create a generalized version of these and turn it into online courses. I was teaching teachers. I was delivering teacher training programs. So again, I filmed those and put them into online courses. The second I did that, I grew my business by 60% within a few months, because now instead of focusing on one geographical area, all of a sudden you're online, you're helping the whole world. So that impact becomes bigger. That's one reason why you definitely do it. But of course, that means your income is bigger too, completely by default. That's another reason. Now, you mentioned, Dr. Will, that, it's the second you so I completely lost where I was going there. Passive, you mentioned passive income. With online courses now, with the online space, there are so many amazing tools out there to use online, lots of which are free. Whether you need somewhere to host your videos, your online school, you need email software to check in with your students based on their actual progress in the course, your accounting software, everything now can be automated. So your students can find your course. If you put it online, you've got it on a public platform, they can find your course, they can buy your course, they can take your course, they can be checked in and monitored in their progression with your course, all without you being physically involved in the transaction whatsoever. This is quite literally passive by its own definition. So passive income is also another big attraction and motivator to people to creating online courses. And of course, there's those who who truly do want to make a big impact in the world, who are not being necessarily driven by ego, but being driven by wanting to leave some kind of legacy on earth. This is where you can go out and become an authority in your industry. You can go from teaching 30 people in a classroom to teaching 3,000 people in a conference room, to teaching 3 million people in your online courses. This is where you can quite literally change the world from your spare room in your house, if that's all it takes. There are so many reasons why you should become an edupreneur, and those are just some of them.
So this is what I find really interesting, and quite honestly, sometimes it takes me off when people talk about designing courses and they deliver these webinars, and you see these videos on YouTube. Again, I'm an educator. I am Canvas certified. I have my full certification for teaching online. And part of my job as an instructional technologist, in addition to teaching teachers how to implement technology in their classroom, it is also developing online PD modules for teachers. So I understand that this is not an overnight sort of process, and it goes beyond just throwing stuff in there and kind of walking away. And I say that to say that designing a course that is engaging and that provides actionable knowledge isn't easy. And especially for people who have never been taught how to really teach people in an online space. They don't know anything about adult learning, as well as using technology in a way where people actually have to go beyond just sort of watching, but actually doing and making. What do you teach your clients about designing an engaging course?
Yeah, no, you've touched a bit of a nerve with me there, Dr. Will. These marketers that are going out there now, and they've never learned anything about education or teacher training or adult learning in their lives, and now they're going out and pretending to be the gurus in course creation and charging thousands of dollars to help people create online courses when they don't even know what a learning outcome actually is. Word of warning: if the person teaching you doesn't know about education or doesn't have some kind of qualification in education, please don't go there. You're not going to get the right advice. You wouldn't want an unqualified doctor to perform any kind of medicinal treatment on you. Don't let anyone who isn't an educator provide you with education, if that makes sense. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Will. And so I would say it's just so wonderful to be in the presence here of a fellow educator, which is who understands. Yeah, look, creating an online course, much to contrary to some of the advice out there, which is dump all your stuff on paper, save it as a PDF and put it online, is not how you create an online course that's going to be engaging or is going to be helpful or transformative to anyone. If some of you have watched some of my YouTube videos, one of the things that I say is, there are different levels of creating an online course, and depending on the purpose of that particular course will depend on how much information that you put into it. So for instance, there is a very big difference between information, just plainly giving someone some information, stuff that you could search online and find for free, and going right up the scale to transformation. In between, you have sort of implementation, where you're helping people do things. Transformation is when people are fundamentally different by the time they have finished your course in some capacity. Now, all of these are perfectly good online courses depending on their purpose. So I'm not saying that a course that's just information alone is bad. Not at all. A lot of people just want information, and this is where knowing your audience is really, really important. Certainly as well, where that course fits in terms of its function in your overall business model is very important too. If you are simply wanting to attract new customers, you want to find audiences and people who are likely to engage with your content and your higher end products and services later on, simply providing a short, free mini informational course is totally okay as your lead magnet. That is something that attracts your people for something for free. A course that's kind of like a mini course. I have an example. I have a free 5-day create your course plan challenge for people that have never written a course plan before to go online. And that just is quite simply 5 videos that get sent to people's inbox over 5 days, and then provides a task. By the time that 5 days is over, they've completed a course plan. Quite simple, quite straightforward. It's free of charge. It helps people so they feel like they've achieved something at the end. They've got a result to show at the end, but it's simple. Something as small as that is really, really good place to start. So if you're just starting off at that beginning end of building an audience for the first time, that is what I encourage people to do. Provide something short and sweet. Could you do some kind of 5-day mini challenge? Could you do, I don't know, maybe you teach nutrition, for instance. I'm going to make something up. You might simply do 5 days to a healthier you. And you might quite simply provide 1 tip a day with how to transform your health. And by the end of that 5 days, they might feel like they've got more energy, or they might feel more vitalized or something, right? So they've got a result at the end of that 5 days of your mini course. Now, at that point, then you might offer them something else. It could be a sort of a much more, your mega program, your flagship program, your program that is really going to transform them and change their way that they eat for the rest of their lives. It's going to help them lose weight and so on. So because that next stage is going to be a paid program, you're going to be asking them for money. There's a big difference now to what you need to put in that course. And this is where you need to start thinking about adult learning, because you're going to be wanting to try and keep them engaged for a much longer period of time. If they're going to be truly transformed, you're going to need them to finish everything. So you're going to need to be thinking about your presentation skills. You're going to need to be thinking about how you separate your dictatorial part, because one of the dangers of online learning is it's very your face talking to them. You don't have that same level of interaction you get in a classroom. So you need to balance out your talking head videos versus your activity, without just putting activities in for activity's sake, because that will make them bored and drop out and then not get the transformation. So there are a lot of things that you need to consider. With that, to continue answering your question, when it comes to online courses, shorter is better. And I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here, because I do have a mega course on how to create online courses, and it is quite a mega course. But people with online learning have quite short attention spans. They like things that they can dip in and dip out of, unlike coming to a classroom physically in presence, which might be an hour, a couple of hours, or even all day long. You may only get their attention for a few minutes in an online course. They might be sat at the bus stop waiting for the bus to come. They could be stood in a cafe waiting for their coffee to be made. This is where people log in now from their mobile phones while they're on the run. There's kids running around them at home, and they're just watching their course while they're on the couch with the TV on in the background. So what I say to people is the videos need to be short. You need to have 1 tip per video, 1 outcome per video, so that it's no more than maybe 3 to 9 minutes long. That's how short people's attention spans are now. Now, of course, if it's longer, that's not a bad thing. It just means you're less likely to keep their attention all the way through. Then the whole course, all those videos put together, I recommend to people now, my advice a couple of years ago was different. Don't make the course longer than an hour, because people will struggle to get through that program and complete to the end, and therefore will be less likely to gain that transformation that you really want your program to give them. If people truly are transformed to get massive results at the end, they're going to be more likely to recommend you. They're going to be more likely to refer other people to your program, give you great reviews, and of course all of those things compound to continue to make your program more and more successful, both for your students and of course for your bottom line as well. So I know that we can't go into the depths of curriculum design in a short podcast interview here, but I guess at this stage, Will, what we want people to really understand is that it's more than just dumping some stuff in an online drive. You do have to make sure that you're considering these differences between information, implementation, transformation, that you're recognizing the fact that you need to consider principles of adult learning, making your content relevant to your students, contextualizing the information to your particular target audience and your particular niche, and presenting information in a way that that particular group of people want it to be presented to them, so that, again, they feel like they've got their value for money.
Ooh. People, did you hear that? Did you hear that? Oh, I love that. Uh, Now I want to ask you about the interaction between the teacher, the instructor, and the student. I'm glad you just mentioned that you don't just put stuff in there, which a lot of people do. And they don't even, so they could be teaching a photography course and they can go through the steps of photography, but they don't even say, hey, put together a short portfolio, submit it so I can review it and give you feedback. It's just and walk away. So in terms of the interaction, how much should be given either via regular discussions or let's a weekly live webinar with your students, or even have, as you have, a private Facebook group where people can connect and engage there. What do you recommend in terms of that engagement piece to keep students uh, mentally connected so that they actually complete the course?
Yeah, no, good question. The answer is there is actually no rule on this. There's no sort of principle of adult learning that says, you must have this much engagement in an online course for it to help them for it to be most transformational. And so this really comes down to knowing that audience that you're working with. What is it they want? Some groups of people are just literally like, just give me the information and go away. That's all they want. They just say, here's my money. I want to be given my stuff and I want to just be left alone and get on with it. You then have learners that are very, very needy. They want a lot of help. They need a lot of help. I think it also depends a lot on the topic that you're teaching as well. If you've got quite a straightforward set of information to provide, you can probably get away with less engagement, with having to be less involved. You can be a bit more step back from your student base. If you're teaching something that is more emotive in its context, perhaps you've got, your therapies and things like that, you're going to find that you're going to need to be more hands-on to guide and coach people through the transformation. So that, I guess, looking back at that information, implementation, transformation is going to really change how much you're involved in the program. Information, you can get away with very little engagement. Implementation, you're going to need to be there to answer questions, because as people start doing the doing bit, perhaps you've taught them how to create a Facebook ad, for instance, that's what you're teaching. They're going to get in and they're going to go, oh, my computer doesn't show that button, please help. When they're implementing, they're going to be asking questions. You're going to need to play some kind of support role. When it gets to the transformation stage, you're going to need to play some kind of coaching capacity. You're going to have to be there to guide people through their emotions. There's going to be behavioral changes. There's going to be attitudinal changes. There's going to be inner conflicts with their feelings versus how they're changing around in the world and the context and the environment in which they live in. And you're going to need to be there to help them through that as a friend, as a mentor, as a coach, as a teacher, however you prefer to come across with your students. So that will obviously change how you price your programs, of course. That's why I would say information at the bottom. They can be free, they can be very, very affordable for people. But as you start going up to that transformative level, you're going to be hands-on, you're going to be there, you're going to be soaking up a lot of that angst that comes with change, with students' change. So that will require a lot more of your time. But in saying that there is no rule and giving that kind of very large scale overview, statistics do show that the more you engage with your audience, the more you create a sense of community, the more likely students are to remain in the course and complete the course. When people feel like they belong, that good old Maslow's hierarchy of needs, a sense of belonging, if you can create a community of people that feel like they understand one another, you group of guys are the only ones who know what I'm going through, trying to create this course, trying to do this work, trying to get my knowledge out to the world, trying to overcome the imposter syndrome, trying to get this tech stuff to work, all these things. You create a group of people who just feel like they belong to something, and they will stay around for a really long time. Not only will they be more likely to finish, they will be more likely to bring other people that are like them into that community too. And they're more likely, because they've had experience. They didn't just buy a product or a thing. They genuinely had an experience with people in a community. So it's highly advisable to try to create a sense of community. And for me, I found that the most effective way of doing that has been to create a Facebook group, which it isn't actually just exclusively for people who are in my programs. I open that up to anyone, even if they're not in my programs. That's called Entrepreneur to Edupreneur. And the great thing about mixing those two groups of people together, i.e. the ones in my courses versus the ones that are not, is that over a period of time, they begin to support one another. You've got those that have been through the program who now start to share my advice with the newbies or people that are not yet in the programs. And that actually takes away a lot of the work from me. It's almost like I've got a few thousand people that have been personally trained by me and therefore know how to answer some of the common questions in the group. And, a lot of people in that group, as you will find when you set up your own Facebook groups, you have an international group. You have people who are in there tapping away, asking questions 24 hours a day. You can't be awake 24 hours a day. So it's great when the community starts supporting each other, which is why the Facebook group is really, really good. The second thing is that when people start talking about their results from your course in a Facebook group that includes people that are not on the course, it actually creates this sense of FOMO, this fear of missing out. And I found that just by people watching some of the students of my courses go, oh my gosh, I completed my course plan today. Or yay, thanks to your course, Sarah, I've got all my online school set up now. The other people watching go, oh, I need some of this too. Or, they're vicariously seeing the results of others and they end up becoming students as well. So there are lots of different reasons why creating a community is good. Better student experience, better retention and completion rates, better student support, but also great for you too.
So let's jump into some of the platforms that people can use. I was watching, a video that you did where you could say, hey, you could put like a shorter version of your course in someplace like Udemy. But with these different platforms, you don't own the platform. You don't have control over the platform. And you even mentioned how, like in a supermarket, they can have cornflakes or whatever, but Kellogg's has no control over if Walmart decides 2-for-1 box on the cornflakes. So you may suggest, hey, I want my course to be $200, and 2 weeks later, Udemy says, oh, we're going to sell your course for $69. When people are thinking about, I am going to launch my first course, and they're looking at all sorts of different platforms that exist. And, again, Udemy is one of those ones that have that big name. If they're going to go with a platform like that, what should they be aware of, and what are, I guess, the benefits versus the challenges of them using a platform like that?
Yeah, so I get asked the question a lot, where do I sell my online courses? If I'm right, Sarah, you've convinced me that I should start selling my knowledge and expertise, creating an online course, getting it out to the world, changing people's lives. But how do I do that? Where do I put this so-called course once I've finished it? So there are basically three major categories of places that you can sell your programs. So one is a place called marketplaces, online course marketplaces, and I'll explain more in a second. The second one is learning management systems, and the third one is plugins for your website. Okay, so let me explain what those three are, because they are all great, but they should all be used in very different ways. So online course marketplaces, you mentioned the metaphor that I used, Dr. Will, there, of a supermarket. So I want you to literally imagine a supermarket when you think about online course marketplaces. Now, what these guys are, is these are software companies. It is a company that has basically created a platform online where any online course instructor, any online course creator can basically put their online course on that supermarket shelf, right? So just like a real supermarket, if you sell bread or you sell meat, milk, or you sell pizzas, and you get a contract, you get a deal with one of these massive supermarkets. It's great for you, right? Because there's millions of people coming through those supermarket doors every single year, and you're going to sell your bread, your milk, and your pizzas just because people happen to be walking through it, right? They're going to walk by, they're going to go, oh, what a lovely looking pizza, and they're going to put it in their trolley, and you're going to make loads of money because they are bringing the customers through the door, because they are doing all the marketing to make sure that there's stuff being bought off the shelf. So you do definitely want to have your content, your online courses on supermarket market shelves, i.e. online course marketplaces. And you mentioned Udemy. Udemy is a very well-known one. It has millions and millions of students all around the world. You stick your course up on that marketplace shelf and it's going to get sold without you having to do a considerable amount of work in terms of marketing, because those guys are doing all the marketing for you, right? But the problem is like you said, Dr. Will, if you've got your bread and your milk and your pizza in a supermarket, the supermarket can decide whether or not your stuff's going on 2-for-1 offers. They can decide if it's going to be sold at 1 cent today. They can decide whatever they want. You're just a tenant on their shelf. They can move your stuff around and do whatever they want with it. Also, the customers walking through that supermarket are not your customers. You're just the dude that sells, you're just the dude that makes and manufactures the milk. The customers walking through Walmart are not your customers. They're Walmart's customers. So only Walmart gets to keep the customer data on the little Walmart club card, membership card, right? Points card, whatever you guys call them there. So look, online course marketplaces are the same. Yes, you can put your course up there for free. Yes, you're going to get paying students on those public course platforms because that platform will work really hard for you to market it and bring students through. However, you will not get any of the student data. You will not get their email addresses. You will not get their contact details. Your course can be discounted to a few dollars, right? And the platform will take a percentage of your sales in exchange for making the sale for you, basically. Now, Amazon works in the same way. Amazon is a marketplace. It doesn't matter whether you sell books or you sell toilet lids, whatever you sell on Amazon, right? It's exactly the same. You stick your stuff up there, people are going to buy it, Amazon are doing the marketing, but they can take 70 to 90% of the actual profit because they're the ones that make the sale. That's just how it works on these marketplaces. So there's a very special way you want to use these platforms to work for you. Your marketplace is a really great place to get exposure to your potential students. It's a fantastic way to get lots of new people discovering you. It's a fantastic starting point if you don't yet have an audience and you're just starting out. So I'd strongly recommend you start there to start building up a name for yourself, getting reviews for your courses, getting new people discovering who you are, getting feedback, iterating your course, putting new stuff in there. It's a really good way to just start and get things moving. The second way of selling your online courses is what I call learning management systems. So these are basically pieces of software that you can purchase, and although somebody owns the software in itself, you can completely customize it to make it your own house, your own boutique store, so to speak, right? This is basically, there's a lot out there at the moment you may have heard of. There's one called Thinkific, there's one called Teachable, there's Kajabi, there's Zenler. There's so many out there now, it's unbelievable. Back in the day, sort of plus 10 years or so ago, these kind of platforms were really expensive. Like only corporates and universities and colleges could really afford them, because I'm talking thousands and thousands of dollars a month to have these pieces of software. Now you can get them for free. You can, like, all of these platforms have some free version, right? Where obviously you might have limited features, but there's a free version. So you can literally start on a complete shoestring budget and start getting your courses out to the world using these platforms. You can brand them as your own. You can turn them all into your own colors. You put your own logos all over them. It's your little mini boutique store. So unlike the supermarket, it's your little place. You can you keep your students. So anyone who logs into that online school, they are your students. They're not someone else's students. You can collect all of their contact details. You can communicate with them in any way that you like. You can sell your course for whatever price you choose. You are in charge of the sales. You connect your online school to your own income platforms such as PayPal or Stripe, whatever sort of payment processor you like to use. It's your payment processor, not somebody else's. So you make all the money, you pay your own tax, you charge whatever you like yourself, right? So these places are where you ultimately want your students to be, because this is where you are running the show and all your IP is protected and all of your income's protected. And the final way is the WordPress plugins. This is where you buy a plugin. It's like an app basically for your website. You add that app to the back end of your website, and you can sell your courses directly from those apps. Which one should you use? It's entirely up to you. With plugins, they are actually a lot simpler now than they used to be. You used to kind of have to have some level of tech skills to work with a plugin, but look, now they're very much drag and drop builders. My recommendation to people who are just starting out in this space is to kind of go with the LMS platform, because now a lot of those LMS platforms come with support people, the people who you're buying the LMS from. There's very big support teams. They're constantly there 24 hours a day for you to ask questions and get help with. They have their own big community of other course creators who are using the same software. They all have Facebook groups, so you can go in and ask for advice. So it's much easier for those of you who are new to all this and just kind of want it to be as simple as you possibly can. But all of them are good. So what I recommend is you put your cheaper, smaller courses, your information level type courses on the marketplaces. That gets you new customers pouring in while someone else is doing all the advertising. And what you want to do at the end of that sort of course, you definitely want to give them some really decent outcomes, because if your course, they think it's a bit pants and they're not going to want anything else from you, they're just going to kind of be like that. Yeah, she's all right. If you actually kind of give them some really good stuff and get them some really good results at the end, they're going to be like that. Oh, gee, she's cool. I like her stuff. If at the end of that course you go, right, well, this was just a taster. I actually have this much more over here, and then you direct them to your LMS. Now they become your customers where they were someone else's in the marketplace. So I really encourage people to put their more transformational, expensive, higher end, more engaging interactive content on your own LMS or your own WordPress plugin website, whichever way you prefer to go. And your cheaper sort of lead generating content that's still good on the marketplaces.
All right, so pricing. And this is where, for me, being an educator, I see pricing differently because I understand my target audience. So again, when I watch some of these people and I'm like, hey, teach 15, sell your course for $1,500, sell your course for $2,000. And I know of someone, and we used to be connected via social media, and she is financially, she is killing it. She did over $1 million in business of teaching people how to design courses. So selling courses to teach people how to design and sell courses. And she said, oh, don't sell yourself short, do this. Now, again, I'm an educator. I know what I make. I know what fellow educators make. There are people in my field who have master's degrees making $35,000 a year. I cannot, in good conscience, charge them $500, $1,000 for a course. They can't afford it. And some may extend themselves to make that investment if they find this is something that will get them to where they want to go. But I don't even want to do that. Like, there's this major conference that is really dope, but a lot of educators can't go to every year because the registration fee alone is over $400, not to mention hotel, airfare, and all the other stuff. So when you are looking at your target audience, how do you develop a pricing structure that provides them value, but also provides you coin?
Yeah, no, good question. And the answer to this actually continuously changes because the world around us changes, right? The world out there, what's on offer changes. What your competition are doing does ultimately impact what you do at some point down the line. And it can have a knock-on effect. Is there a rule to how much an online course should be? Absolutely not. And if you have a market that are willing to pay you thousands of dollars to access it, definitely do it. Good for you. Right? That's brilliant for you. Well done. And there are people out there that are certainly still willing to pay thousands of dollars for an online course. What I do myself personally, as someone who's very successful in this space, and would encourage other people to do, is to make sure that you kind of have a bit of an ecosystem of options for people. You know, the more you're going up there to help more people, the more you have to be conscious of the fact that there are some people who, with all their best intentions, with all the will in the world, who want to do what you have to offer, just cannot afford it. And that doesn't mean that they're going to be a rubbish customer, or they're not going to engage with your content. They're not going to go out there and change the world. So you need to figure out ways that you can help the most amount of people. And those people that truly are educators and are out there to simply take money from people will find a way to do this. And this is where I talked before briefly about having sort of lower end, smaller stuff that scales up and scales up and scales up. I offer plenty of free content, as Will, you've already talked about. You know, you go onto my YouTube channel and there's stuff that will keep you chewing away on videos there for days. You know, endless blogs for free, endless YouTube videos for free. I have heaps of mini courses for free, mini challenges for free. I speak at workshops and conferences for free. I go into my Facebook group regularly and provide content, share links, do live streams for free. I answer people's questions in those groups constantly for free. And those people are people who either would just simply never be able to afford my services, but as a result of all of the free stuff they get, have become my biggest referrers. And they send me probably tens of thousands of dollars worth of customers every few months because of the fact that they've benefited from what I've shared, and have felt like they should have or could have paid a lot of money for it, but still managed to get the support without paying anything. So a lot of people who say, don't give your stuff away for free. Well, look, don't give everything away for free. You need to have a business. You don't have a business if you're not being financially minded. But I believe that part of our marketing system as an educator, as an edupreneur, requires us to be generous with our knowledge and our content at the lower end of our funnel. The next stage, after you kind of get your free stuff out there, and I've mentioned just then what some of those free stuff things are, these are all things that are put in public places where search engines will find them. So remember that your audience are going to be typing in questions like, how do I something? They're going to be going to Google or whatever search engine they use. How do I get? How do I be? How do I do? How do I achieve? How do I not have? How to avoid? If your stuff is coming up with the answer to those questions in Google, and YouTube videos come up as Google search results, blogs come up as Google search results, live stream videos that you've put on your public social media pages come up as search results. Well, it's your stuff that they're then going to be sucked into, and they're going to go and open up and read. It's going to be you that they then start following. And when or if they do eventually have the funds to pay for something, it will be you that they buy it from, because you're the one that they've got that free content for. This is your content marketing, your edupreneurial strategy to establishing yourself as the authority, as the expert in that particular topic, but also in how you start generating your leads and getting customers into your sphere of influence. But the next stage then is you actually want to be going, right, there are other people out there that are going to want more than just this free stuff. And this isn't just being, you know, business focused and financially focused. There are people out there that you can only serve better by now providing a higher level of service. So then I have sort of more cheaper courses. These are like my Udemy programs where there's still a result to be given, and those courses are fairly cheap. You know, they're going on Udemy for $10, $15, for instance. You know, the great thing about an online course is, yes, you have to invest some time creating it at the beginning, but once it's produced and it's sort of met that critical mass number of students, you know, that have paid for your time to initially build it, everything after that is completely 100% profit. So if you think longer term gain with your online courses, you can sell them cheaply because they're going to be 100% profit later on down the line. And that, you know, that adds up. That starts becoming really good money. Then you have your more higher end courses. You might start sort of paying $200-300, charging $200-300 for some of your real transformational programs. So you kind of go free stuff, then you kind of go online courses, information, implementation. Then I take it to the next level with transformation. So me, the transformation stuff, I feel like I need to be with my people to do that. To give that level of support and guidance, I like to be with them in person. So I then offer a face-to-face boot camp, which is a very high ticket program where people will spend 5 to 7 days with me in person under the same roof, and by the time they leave, they've built their online school, they've created their online courses, they've got their whole system set up, right? The other version I do is a one-day setup service. So people literally, they will come to my house, they will fly to my home, they will stay in my house for the night, they sit in my studio here, I create their online course plan with them, I literally write their curriculum for them, and then I build their online school with them and show them how it works, teach them how to use it. They then go in my studio and I make them film the course, like they can't escape until it's done. So what you've got there is you've got your do-it-yourself. The online courses are do it yourself. Then you have the done with you, the boot camp kind of stuff. And then you have the done for you, where I literally sit there and do it for you, and I'm teaching you how to do it for yourself at the same time. So I always say to people, what can you create that is do it yourself, done with you, and done for you? The price goes up the whole way. What I've found is those that eventually end up in my boot camps, which is a lot of money, have consumed every piece of free content I have. They have read and watched everything. They've done every free mini course. They've then found $10 and done the cheap Udemy courses. They've then gone, oh, that was really good, and then joined my Edupreneur program on the free trial membership, right? And eventually they've just gone, oh my God, you're clearly the expert. You know exactly what you're doing. This is the great thing about being an edupreneur. You don't have to sell anymore. Just being you and sharing your knowledge and information literally demonstrates to people that you are who you say you are and that you are good at what you do. And eventually they just find a way, those people that can get to that level. But all the way before that, you can help people without them having any money at all or having very little money. So it can be very, very rewarding.
Wow. I've just been sitting here, like what you've been saying this entire interview is so good. I wish I could sell this interview because
well, thanks, Will. I was going to say things have actually recently changed now as well. Not changed, but there's diversified. That there is also now a new add-on into how you can make money with your online courses, and this is how I've managed to offer basically tens of thousands of dollars worth of my content for a very affordable amount of money, and it's what I encourage people to do now. Back in the day, sort of more than 6 years ago, you could sell online courses for the $1,500, $2,000 a piece, more than that. So, some of my courses were going for $3,000 a piece. Back then, because there wasn't a lot of competition. Now there's so much competition out there. Obviously, as I said, your competitors make a difference to what you do. It drives the price down, and people start selling their stuff for cheaper. So you kind of have to find a way to compete and fit in to some degree. If you're good at what you do, you don't need to bring your prices down. But membership models, subscription models are now a really, really popular thing to do. So what I did after a period of time is, once you've created your first course, guys, you find it's copy and paste. Your first course is always going to be the hardest one to create because it's the first time you're doing any of it. It's all new, it's all scary, it's all confusing, it's all rah. But it's a copy and paste model. It's a system. Once you've learned how to do it once, the rest are the same, and it gets easier and easier and easier every time you do it. So after a while, you'll find it's quite addictive. You get that first student and you just feel amazing. I actually love on my mobile phone having the Stripe notifications for when someone buys my course. And you get people who leave lovely reviews at the end, and it dings up on my phone. It says, "Thank you for changing my life." An edupreneur will never tire of those wonderful feelings you get from that. But what you do is you can then start basically creating this vault of all of your knowledge and all of your content, putting it all together. So what I found is my first course was teaching people more about curriculum design, because that's what I was doing in my professional, everyday, day-to-day life in the corporate space. And then I found that entrepreneurs wanted to learn how to create courses. So that's when I started, teaching people who weren't educators how to create an online course. Then I found that once they had learned how to create their online courses, they wanted to know how to sell it. So a lot of people, my students were going, well, thank you for helping me create my course. Now, how do I get students? So I was like, oh, okay, well, so then I created a whole online course on how to sell your online courses. And then people went, okay, Sarah, you've talked a lot about, content marketing, sharing your knowledge with the world. So how do we do blogging? How do we do this? So I started creating all these courses for educators on how to get your stuff out to the world. Then someone said to me, I've actually written and published 7 books, 5 of which have gone to #1. And a lot of people said to me, Sarah, how did you write your book? How did you turn your courses into books? How did you get them to #1? So I created a course on how to write and self-publish best-selling books. And it's so you find, like I said at the very beginning of this podcast, the more you go out there and start doing stuff, the more stuff uncovers itself that you're good at, that you people keep asking you more questions. It just gives you more and more answers of things to create. So I ended up creating an academy. So I now have what I call the Edupreneur Academy. And this is just a collection of all these programs. Now, individually, some of those programs were selling for $1,000 plus each. There's over 50 online courses now in my academy. So that's like more than $50,000 worth of content. So it was a few years ago. And I found that now with the competition out there, people like to try before they buy. So what I did is I just went, okay, well, instead of charging thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars for each course, I'm going to just simply charge one price per month for people to have access to everything. I mean, talk about quadrupling your value, right? And so that $50,000 worth of content, I've whittled down to just $47. All of those courses are available to people for just $47. But to then make it even more attractive to people, what I did is made the first 30 days completely free of charge. Access everything. So look, some people do go in and they get the 30-day free trial, they watch everything, and then they cancel their subscription. So those people do genuinely get all my stuff for free, right? Good for them. If they go out and implement it and leave a great review for everything and go around and tell everyone what great stuff they got, brilliant. But there are also thousands of people that just go, this is amazing. They enjoy being in the community. They're learning things. They do stuff slowly. Life gets in the way. They take one course at a time. That stay in that academy for years. I've got students that have been paying that $47 a month for years, happily, and love it. And they think they're getting amazing value for money because there's so many programs in there which I'm constantly updating. I'm constantly answering their questions. Now, if you think to yourself, I don't know how many friends you guys listening have on Facebook. I don't know how many friends you have in your mobile phone. I don't know how many connections you have across your other social media platforms. But I can guarantee you that I bet you know more than 100 people when you include all of those people, or you are connected to more than 100 people. Now, if you're charging $47 a month for your online course, whether it's 1 or 100 you've got in there, 100 people, $47 a month is $4,700 a month in passive income for doing nothing, for simply having your stuff online. It's all done automatically using the software. Now, I think there's a lot of people out there who would really love to have an extra $5,000 a month coming into their bank accounts for doing nothing. 100 people is not a big challenge. Anyone without a list, without huge marketing budgets or anything could probably aim towards that and make a big difference to a lot of people. Why not go for 200 as your goal for your membership? Now, that's 10 grand a month that's going to go in your bank account for you doing very little. Now, $47, a lot of people said to me, Sarah, are you absolutely mad? You're giving away so much stuff for such a little price. But little volumes of money with big volumes of signups equals a great reason to be an entrepreneur if that's the only one you go for. So yeah, I hope that kind of sums up where we're at. And that's where, if you guys just want to have a look just to see how I've set mine up and just what it looks like to give you some inspiration, sarahcordiner.com/academy, you will see there how simple it is from a WordPress website that links to an online LMS, a learning management system I mentioned before. You too can do that. You can have exactly those results.
Awesome. And people, I'll have information to that in the show notes that you can check out. Wow. I love that subscription model. I'm trying to get my stuff together to do that as well. And I've been, recommending some friends, who have produced so much content out there. Like, man, you better get that subscription model going on. Particularly, I have one who has like higher end coaching services and services where, okay, I can do your website for you. And I said, and as you mentioned earlier, I said, hey man, we can start out with a smaller subscription model and then do an upscale upgrade where you do this. Now we can do some one-on-one coaching. Another tier, now I can go over you with your website and then we can build your website. And I said, that's how you can keep the money flowing and not charge a certain price for this higher end. And then if you get 2 customers, you're like, okay, cool. But you may go 6 months without people spending that higher tier money. But if you can get them here,
yeah,
then things
it's
are
a much more sustainable model. You look in your Stripe account or your PayPal account, it shows you how many people are logged into that subscription. So you know exactly what the minimum amount you're going to earn next month is. When you run a business, even if that's $50 a month, you've got that coming in. You've got to start somewhere. You need some sustainability. And when you've got a business model, it's like, boom, I did a big marketing campaign this month. I've made shitloads of sales. And then the next month, there's nothing. It's a really, really high risk business model to have. So this is why I'm a big fan of the subscription. It's a really easy way to give huge amounts of value to your customers without them having to remortgage their property. It's a great way to keep those customers staying in the system and continuously buying from you in a way where they actually thank you for it and really feel like they're getting a huge amount in return for their investment.
excellent. Because we're really big over here about making the impact and the income. So before we go, what is your recommendation, your call to action for those edupreneurs? They're writing books, they're presenting at conferences, they're delivering face-to-face trainings, they're blogging, they're doing all sorts of things. What do you say to them to get them to take the leap into the online course game? And how can members of my audience work with you?
Look, the first thing is just to remember that you do have a lot more to give than you might think, and you just have to start somewhere. If you start by simply, like, I'm big fan of the mobile phone, pick up your mobile phone, go onto Facebook, press the little red camera button, the live stream, and just start sharing a tip a day. If that's where you start with before you create a course and you don't know kind of what content you're going to share yet, just go think of every tip that you have in the world that you want to share with someone around your topic and do a live stream every day. I actually did a little challenge in my group called the 30-day 30 tips. And I made everyone in my group share a tip with their audience every day for 30 days. Now, what happened is that was really easy because people weren't like completely overwhelmed by sharing one tip. I told them they just had to do a 2-minute video every day, one tip. Now, what happened after 30 days, and of course I planned this, is after 30 days, they had 30 tips. So I went, right, you now have a mini online course, right? This is your free mini course. So I made them download all of their Facebook live videos and I made them put it into a little mini free giveaway course for their audience. So those people who might have missed the tips, I had hundreds of people who then, ta-da, had a little free lead magnet to give away. So they started generating the audience. So if you really are completely overwhelmed by the thought of creating a course, just start by doing a tip a day. And eventually you're going to create yourself actually quite a lot of content. If you are ready to go, a lot of you listening to this are already educators, you already know how to teach, you're already fantastic, you already do the things that terrify a lot of people standing in a room full of kids, that you're ready to go. Just start somewhere. Now, if you need some help, if you're not sure where to, I have a free Create Your Course Plan challenge, which I'd be delighted to share with you. By the end of the 5 days, you will have your first online course plan completely created. So if you go to sarahcordiner.com/course plan challenge, you can sign up for that free challenge there. I've got my free Facebook group, Entrepreneur to Edupreneur, where you can come along and ask any questions you like. And if you're really ready to master the world of edupreneurship, create your first profitable and engaging online course, then come on over to my Edupreneur Academy, where the first 30 days are completely free of charge. And that's sarahcordiner.com/academy. And of course, I'm sure Will and I are here to answer any questions that you might have.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah, for coming on the show.
My pleasure. It's an absolute honor to be able to inspire other educators to get out there and do their thing to make the world a better place. Without you guys, we wouldn't have an evolution of where we are in the world. Please keep sharing and educating the world.
Awesome. Awesome. People, you know how I do this. This podcast episode will be going up on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Simplecast, and iHeartRadio. I need you to follow, subscribe, leave your comments, leave some dope ratings, share with everyone, because your boy's trying to get Oprah on the show, and I want her to know that we're doing big things around here. Again, I'd like to thank my guest, Sarah Cordiner, for coming on and dropping so many gems with you. Again, people, thank you for checking out the Dr. Will Show, the mobile university for entrepreneurs. As always, people, invest in you. EDU. Peace.